Welcome back to Buckets WNBA edition. I am your host, Jim Turvey. It's a Monday night. We got Kate Constable in the house again. We brought her back. The debut was so shining, so stellar. We had to bring her back right away. We're going to be doing a couple different things tonight. We're going to do obviously Tuesday slate. We got 3 games again. We're going to look at some of the teams and players maybe most impacted by the international break that's coming up, because this will actually be our last Monday WNBA Buckets for a little while here. Joe is going to come to you on Wednesday, I think with Daniel. I'm not 100% sure on that. But then we'll have a little break. We'll have 3 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks. Actually, I should have had the exact number. But we've got this international FIBA tournament. Lots of WNBA players going over there. Really weird timing for the WNBA season, if I'm being honest. It's like we are about to hit the stretch run, and then we come back. It's like a week and a half. It's very strange, but a lot of the players really do care about the international play. There's a couple names I think in particular that we can talk through who, this is a highlight on their calendar. They really wouldn't want to miss it. So glad that the W's having those folks go, pausing their season so teams aren't super impacted. But of course, them playing over there may have some impact of its own. But Kate, how's it going? Are you ready for a little international break? Are you like, man, I was just hitting my hitting my groove, or what? How are you feeling as we head towards this little break here?
Well, Jim, it's good to be back with you guys. I felt like I was just kind of hitting my groove. I'm kind of disappointed that we have a break now, because it feels like it's almost going to be, I know it's like a very short amount of time when they come back before the playoffs, but it almost feels like it's going to be a separate little season of its own, just because you're going to have to reevaluate these teams based on the players that were over there and the wear and tear on their bodies, and if anyone gets injured or things like that. So I think the international play will be really fun to watch, but I'm a little bummed from a betting perspective, because I felt like I was kind of like had just gotten in the last couple of weeks like a really great handle on a lot of these teams, and now they're going to change a little bit.
I agree. We aren't going to do like a preview here, Buckets or anything. I don't think we're going to do coverage during it. I would suggest, I know the Bet You Wins people, Danny Barlavi in particular, is very tied to the international scene. I would guess that they're doing some stuff for that. Brian Fonseca is one who here at Action is very tied into international ball. I'm going to try and have him on, I think, after to recap it, because I know he'll be locked in. I'm pretty excited to watch myself. This France team, I mean, I'll be rooting for USA, but the French team is awesome. We'll cover a lot of the players that they have on their team as we kind of go through some of these teams here. I'm with you on kind of being, I think it's kind of a weird timing for it, but I'll say that I don't mind the break for 2 reasons here. One, I am getting absolutely smacked betting wise. The last week was the worst week of WNBA betting I've ever had. So tonight's podcast, I'm going to do some leans. I'm going to not do any official plays, and I'm going to make this break for me even 1 week longer, because it seems like I cannot catch a break right now. And I want to make sure that my process is good. So I'm going to use the break to kind of dig in, look into, is it points props that are killing me? Is it overs? Is it unders? Is it certain teams? All that stuff. I'm going to dig in a little bit of that during break. And then, Kate, we were talking before the episode. We're not going to touch on a lot of the stuff going on, the conversation around the actual basketball. We usually like to stick to the basketball here. But I do have kind of a hope that we have a month off. We come back and we talk hoop. It's going to be a week and a half of basketball leading into the playoffs. Let's lock it in. Let's do some X's and O's. I think a lot of fans, that's what they're here for. So hopefully we do get that a little bit more on the backside of this international break. But you had a fun idea, because we got 15 teams in the league now, sending a variety of different players. So we'll try and maybe touch on who everyone's sending at some point in the podcast here. But we each came with 2 teams that we think are the most impacted and the least impacted. And I originally said I wasn't going to look at your picks. I did look at your picks. We do have some overlap here, but I'm going to defer to you, and then I'm going to kind of bounce off of what you've got here. I think we should start with the most impacted. Who is your most impacted team over this international break?
Yep, my most impacted. So, like you said, I have 2 of them, but this 1 and 2 of those top 2. So, this is the most impacted team.
Yeah, and
I think it's the New York Liberty. With how many players that they are sending. I mean, Brianna Stewart for the U.S. You have, I always say her name wrong. Pauline Astier,
I think.
SDA. Yeah, see, it's French. I'm not, my French accent is not great.
I only know because the first time on the pod I did it this year, I instantly got a text and I was like, it's Astia. I was like, shit.
Okay. Yeah. Marine Johannes, and then Fibisch for Germany. And Hanshu.
Yeah, even Hanshu for China. So that's 5 pretty key players.
And that's the thing, is these aren't like end of the roster kind of like late bench filler players at all. Like Brianna Stewart averaging 21 points, Phoebish averaging double digits. I mean, it's a lot of their scoring. And then you factor in, and this is Jim, like maybe even the biggest point that kind of I had in choosing New York is that they've just been so injured all year that they barely had their intended roster together all year. And now these players are taking another break away from each other. And I mean, you like, fingers and toes crossed, everyone stays healthy while they're over there, but like they can't really handle any more injuries. You already have to say Satu Sabli with the concussion, she's away from the team. Phoebus just returned from her injury. Jonquil Jones has that ankle stuff that she's dealing with. So, I mean, they just haven't had time to have the continuity of like their normal starting 5 playing a lot of heavy minutes together to kind of get ready for the postseason. And then what makes this even more impactful is coming back. Their re-entry schedule, if you want to call it that, is brutal. They play 4 games in 6 days. 3 of the 4 against playoff teams. They start at Minnesota, at Toronto, and then they go to Atlanta for 2 games. So it's not like easing back in. And I mean, a lot of these teams aren't going to be able to ease back in because playoffs are right around the corner. But to kind of have that brutal schedule and play 4 games in 6 days when you're a team that's dealt with so many injuries, it's just not ideal, I don't think.
Man, that is a great look on the schedule, because that was one element of this that I didn't look into, is like, because you're 100% right. If you kind of have a soft landing, that can mitigate to a certain degree going over there. And then you're like, okay, but at least I came back and I'm home, or I have a couple of days off. Yeah. I had them asterisk because of one thing. I do agree. I mean, Stewie has been carrying such a heavy load. I think it's terrible for her, the liberty she's going over. Marine, I think France will probably be in the final, and she's pretty key for the French team. So I think she'll play a lot. Hanchu, they might not be on a long run, and Pauline Assay may be a bench player. To me, that it all swings on one thing. It's Leonie Phoebish. We don't have official word, at least that I could find. We don't have official word. However, I texted friend of the show, Miles Ehrlich. He said she's going.
That's what
She just came back from injury, but to her, this is like
huge.
Huge deal. She was.
Sorry, Jim, I'm interrupting.
No. Hop right in.
Like, remind me, she was the player a couple of years ago that like prioritized her international team before coming 100%. Over and playing in the W. Like, that was so important to her.
Yeah. So I was like, I mean, you said it when you were writing this down. She just came back from injury. Now she played 34 minutes her first game back, which I thought was psychotic, by the way, especially since you're about to send her off to this tournament. If you can cut it both ways. You can say, okay, if she played 34 minutes in the first game back, they actually were like very cautious with her, and she's ready to go, and she's actually fully healthy. I still don't love that this team has not been healthy all season, and they're now sending 5 players to this tournament. So I think if you see Phoebish officially go, which again, I think that there's almost like, I would say like a 90% chance probably, then I do think that they are the most impacted. But if she doesn't go, there's one team I would have above them who's going to be your second pick. But I want to talk through one other team, because I agree with you on the 2 top teams here. But I think we can talk through a couple other teams. My team that I was going to go with here is the Fever. They only have 2 players, and Kelsey Mitchell isn't going, so she'll be well rested. But the 2 that are going are Caitlin, obviously Caitlin Clark and Leah Boston. And that might not seem like a lot, but here's the thing. I think Caitlin's going to have to do a ton of media. It's kind of like Michael Jordan when he went to.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
I think it's like going to be, not only is it going to be exhausting on the court, I think she's going to be like, she's the global star of the WNBA. I think it's going to be exhausting. I think it's going to be one of those trips where she comes back, and like those vacations you go on and you need the vacation from the vacation. I think it's going to be that for her. And it seems like she has really, ironically, as the noise has gotten louder around the Fever off-court stuff, she seems to have locked in. And now there's this whole new change. She's going to be going overseas. She's going to be, doing tons of media over there. I'm curious to see how that weighs on them. Obviously, Boston will be by her side, so it's probably a lot of media for Leah Boston. And again, whenever you're a teammate of Caitlin, that fame comes with it as well. So I'm just curious to see how that goes. Again, Kelsey Mitchell will be back. None of their role players are going. Like, theoretically, they should be in decent shape. But Caitlin, we have seen injuries in the past, just in general. And then I do think like the media tour of this all could get kind of crazy and could kind of wear her down. So they were the one that I was going to go with as kind of a sneaky potential impact team.
Yeah, that's a great call because the mental wear and tear of all the media she's going to have to do, all the questions she's going to have to answer, I mean, you said at the beginning, like, we're just going to stick to basketball here, but all the political questions she's going to have to deal 100%. With, like, on a global level and not just a home turf level. Like, that's a great call. I kind of looked at the number of players going and thought, okay, well, like, that's only 2 and, no Kelsey Mitchell, but that's a big aspect of it. And it's got to just be mentally draining for her by the end of it. So, like, can she flip that switch and then go back to the Fever and continue playing the way they have and kind of block everything else out? That'll be 100%. Yeah.
All right. Why don't you pick your second team, who is the team that I actually had number 1 in my rankings because of the tiny asterisk on Feebage. I think this is, but it's 1 and 1A. I think that's kind of how you had them as well. The Aces are the other team that's really up there for notable players that are going abroad.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's mainly because of Asia, Jackie, and Chelsea. I mean, they combined for almost 60 points of the team. Like that's their team right there. That's their scoring. And I mean, these are players that have, used to playing heavy minutes throughout seasons, but this just adds a whole nother dimension to it. And you kind of have to wonder the wear and tear on their bodies mentally for them too, just how taxing that is going to be. And then to be able to come back and also have to carry the load for the Aces. And then Melissa Smith with her injury, we don't know what that, I looked today and I couldn't find if they've announced anything about how serious that is. But that's just, someone out of the lineup that she was adding double-digit points. And which means if she's gone, someone else kind of has to help pick up that slack in terms of the scoring even more so. So with those, the big 3 for the Aces playing for Team USA, that's the most concerning part.
Yeah, the Aces are so top heavy. You kind of said there's 60 points of their if any of these players comes back injured, it's over. Like that's a wrap. And then even if they're just worn down, we've seen Chelsea Gray every postseason she's able to rise, except that 2024 when the Liberty got their title, she looked pretty worn down. Mm-hmm. If she comes back from this looking pretty worn down, that could be a huge factor. So, I mean, I talked about how the last week has not been good betting night to night. Also hasn't been good since last week. I loaded up on this podcast on Aces Futures. I was like, all right, this is the team I want. The price I think is good. And then Nalissa went down. To me, that looks like it's probably season ending. Yeah. We haven't gotten an official word, but it did look pretty bad. And again, this is a team that just can't lose people. It seems like maybe DeWanna Bonner is being bought out so she can come join. I like Nalissa Smith a lot more than DeWanna Bonner at this stage of their careers. I think Nalissa fits better next to Asia. I think she really has been an awesome player this season, very under the radar. If you lose Nalissa, even if you add Bonner, if any of these players come back, dinged up or just worn down, it's really bad news for the Aces. So you mentioned the big 3. Also, Steph Talbot, who starts for them. She doesn't play very many minutes. She doesn't do much scoring, but she literally starts for them. She's going to this. And then Yamamoto, who's been kind of their fun, semi-breakout bench player this season. She's going to the tournament as well. So they've really, that's 5 players as well, all of whom are in the rotation. That's on par with the Liberty, and it's the 3 top Aces. So they really got to hope that, I think if you're an Aces fan or an Aces bettor, you hope that Team USA just kind of rolls. They don't need to push Asia in any games. Chelsea really doesn't need to come in. I think Chelsea is kind of there as the closer. If it's a close game, I think that it's going to be a lot of Chelsea and Asia and probably some Jackie too, honestly, because they're so good in those crunch times. So I think if you want to see the Aces back fully healthy, not worn down, I think you root for Team USA to cruise. I think there's some good teams here. I think there's some teams that could push Team USA, especially that French team. So I think that's a very good pick on the Aces. Any final thoughts on the Aces before I shout out one more team in this tier here?
The only positive for the Aces, because I looked at their schedule coming back for all these teams, is their first 4 games are teams that have been eliminated. So they can kind of ease back in. Maybe Becky Hammond plays, the top 3, the minutes a little bit fewer to kind of just help them out. So that's the only other part that's a little bit of a silver lining there.
That's a great call. And I actually wouldn't be surprised. It's funny though, because I was about to say I wouldn't be surprised if we see them sit a couple of these games, but 2 things. the standings are so tight up there at the top of the standings right now that I don't think they want to somehow slip to 5th and have to go on the road.
No.
And like the other day, I think it was just yesterday, we saw the midday Asia downgrade to questionable. I was like, oh, this makes sense. They're 12.5 point favorites on the road. They can afford to sit Asia in this game. She played. And like, I do think teams and players and coaches aren't always as future sighted in like a good way as like you and I might be like, just sit the players. Like, what are you doing? But we see this time and time again across sports where athletes are psycho competitors. That's how they got to be in this spot. They don't want to sit for a game. Like they don't have that future vision. That's kind of how they got to where they are.
Exactly.
They kind of push themselves relentlessly. So yeah, I think it's a great shot though, because even if they don't specifically sit, they might have lower minutes. They might be able to sit a fourth quarter because they're up big. So I think that is an important thing to shout out. I'm just going to shout out one more team in this most impacted tier, and that's the team that just beat the Lynx tonight, Golden State Valkyries. They went into Minnesota and got it done, but they have 3 pretty key players: Gabby Williams, Janelle Salon, and Cecilia Zandolosini. That's 2 starters and the probable 6th player of the year there. So 3 of their top 6. And honestly, Stokes is kind of usually plays fewer minutes than Salon, so it might be 3 of their top 5 even. Gabby Williams is so essential to the French national team. I think that they're going to go on a run, and I think she's going to be very essential to that run. They've been limiting her minutes leading up to this FIBA. That's how like invested they are, or like invested she is in this tournament. So I think she's young enough and healthy enough that this might not be a huge impact. That's why I left them off. They're all kind of young, like healthy players. So I think that they should be fine. But for a defense that relies on like fresh legs and ball pressure and all that, it's not super ideal for 3 of your top 5 to 6 players in your rotation to be going over this tournament. So any thoughts on the Valks before we flip it onto the least impacted?
No, I think they were on my short list. So I agree with you. It's a team that I was kind of keeping an eye on, but yeah, Gabby Williams is going to be just fun to watch over there.
Yeah, 100%. I all of it will be fun, but whenever France and US, if they face off in like round robin or if in the knockout, those games should be awesome. I mean, remember the last international tournament? It was Gabby Williams who took that final shot. So really good matchups there. Why don't you lead us off on the least impacted? I think there's it's you put the same team as I did. I think there's a very clear number 1 here. Who did you put?
I threw out the Mystics.
100%.
So no significant rotation players going for them. You have Sonia Citron, Kiki, Shakira Austin, like they're all staying home. They almost get like a 2-week like mini camp now off. 1 to rest, and 2 being like they're one of the youngest team in the league. Like this gives them some time to just continue working on things together and kind of prepping for the playoffs and just understanding what's going to be coming, all of that stuff. So it's simple in just they're staying home, they're getting rest. All their important players are going to be healthy for the rest of the season.
It is really funny because I put them number 1 with a bullet. To me, it seems very obvious. There's 2 teams I'm going to shout out in a second as to why I didn't have them number 1. But it's kind of funny because this team has been the healthiest, youngest team all season. So if any team needed a break, it's not the Mystics. They don't really need it, like you said. But they have 1 player going. It's their backup point guard who's been in and out of the rotation, Alicia Florens. That's not going to impact them at all. The only 2 teams with less going is the Chicago Sky have literally no one. So that's no impact, but they're no impact. They're
right. That's why I didn't put them on, because they're not making the playoffs. So like, who really cares what happens?
Exactly. And the Los Angeles Sparks, who are also not going to the playoffs, are missing Ji-Yeon Park, who again is like a 10-minute a night player off the bench for a team not making the playoffs. So those 2 teams don't really matter. I agreed with you on your second team that you had here as well. So should we slide right over to that?
Let's do that. That's the Minnesota Lynx. Nafisa Collier's the biggest name going, right? And she's extremely important. But the Lynx have depth everywhere. They're on the verge of locking up the number 1 seed. They can bring Nafisa Collier back cautiously if they need to. They can ease her in. And like, let's not forget, Jim, the Lynx held things down for the entire first half of the season, basically without Nafisa Collier this year. So like, even if she plays heavy minutes, in this tournament, and Cheryl Reeve wants to sit her for a game or two when she gets back. Like, I think this team is going to be okay. You still have, Olivia Miles, Kayla McBride, all the rotation players that will be there to kind of handle the workload. And as long as Nafisa Collier is healthy, I think the Lynx will be able to survive this just fine. Chloe is the other one that is playing for Australia.
So what was that? Sorry.
Chloe is the only other one playing for Australia, right?
Chloe's playing for Australia. There's a couple of unsure, like Antonia Delere for Belgium is a possibility, and Dorka Juhas is a possibility, but Fee is the one that matters here. And I wasn't sure if we would align on this, because I did have Minnesota as well. And my thinking was twofold. I think Cheryl's going to be in Carol Lawson's ear and be like, Fee does not get heavy minutes. If you see anything wrong, like, she doesn't play. And I also agree with you on, like, we saw them sit Fee over the weekend. Mm-hmm. I think that they will do that down the stretch and be totally fine. They may have the 1 seed locked up, although losing to the Valks did hurt tonight. That might make the 1 seed open a little bit longer. But I think it's bold to put, like, a team whose best player is going abroad as the least impacted. But I agree with you, because I'll rattle through some of these other teams here really fast. Mm-hmm. But Atlanta has Ryan Howard and Angel Reese, along with Isabel Borlas, who's like a rotation player. Dallas has Paige, who's just as important. I would say Paige is much more impactful to Dallas than Fee is Smith, so only because of what's around her.
Exactly.
They also have Alana Smith and Lee Yaroo, so it's not like they're light on players going. And then you look, even some of the teams not in the postseason. If I wanted to just put one of the non-postseason teams, Phoenix has Plum and Copper. Portland has DeLeo and Late. Like, these are 2 stars from all those teams. Seattle has Ezzy, Jade, Pham, and Malanga. Like, I honestly could have put them in most impacted if it mattered down the stretch. That's basically their starting 5 right there. Leo Lacan has already left for the Sun. Toronto's got probably 3 players going. So all these teams are losing players. And for Minnesota, they're probably their best player. Olivia Miles is right there with Fee at this point. Probably their best player, but on a deep team, to me, that matters less, which is exactly what you said. So I do think that makes sense to have Fee or the Lynx as the second least impacted. But to me, Washington is like a tier beyond. But the irony being that they may need it less than anyone else.
Right. Yeah. That is funny that they are the youngest team, but it's been the healthiest, and they all just get to hang out together for a couple of weeks, build some team chemistry. Do
some more, as if that team needed more chemistry. I've never seen like better chemistry from a squad. So they just got to keep the vibes going, I guess.
Yeah, they've been a fun team to watch. A surprisingly fun team to watch this year. I didn't have very high expectations for them coming into the year, but they've kind of surprised.
Very much agreed. Any final thoughts on international break? Who's going to be impacted? Any of that, or should we?
Let's jump into some bets if you're ready.
Let's do it. Real quick before that, the dog days of summer are the best time to be listening to this podcast. And if you want to get our bets analysis right away, the only way to do that is by signing up for Action Pro. Get instant notifications when action experts track their bets, plus access to all of our top projections across whatever sport you're watching this summer. Whether that's the WNBA, Major League Baseball, golf, and with college football and the NFL season right around the corner, now is the best time to jump in. Get $20 off an annual subscription with the promo code POD20. That's code POD20 for $20 off a year of Action Pro right now. Go to actionnetwork.com/pro to get in on this offer so you can become the smartest bettor you can be. All right, let's dig into the Tuesday slate. We got 3 games on the slate. A couple of decent games, some a little bit funky. I'm treading very carefully this week. I mean, aside from the cold streak of last week, we saw a weird thing happen tonight where Fee was announced off the bench 30 minutes before the game, and then at tip, they switched it and had her as a starter. We saw weird things with people getting benched over the weekend out of some injury news going on. We saw teams tank. We saw the Connecticut Sun put out their bench in the second half of the game against the Sparks. We saw the Sparks do that the previous game. There's some weird stuff going on. So I think tread lightly this final week before. You might see people like announced to be overseas after you've bet an opening line. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff this final week. So I'm going to tread very cautiously, but that doesn't mean we can't look through the games, talk through them. And then, I'll give a lean. You've got a couple bets. We actually aligned on the one, which is great. That's the game we're starting on. So I'll start there. We've got the Chicago Sky at the Connecticut Sun. Sun are 5.5-point home dogs. Totals 169.5. For Chicago, it's still just Skylar out. For Connecticut, why the hell are we doing this, Connecticut? They're listing Brittany Griner and Olivia Nelson-Dodo questionable again. They keep doing this shit with Griner where they list her questionable. And I'm annoyed because I have to project her in, and then I have to project her out as soon as they rule her out. Well, why are we doing these games, Connecticut? Come on.
I mean, yeah. I would imagine she's out. She's out right now, according to ESPN on their injury report.
Yeah, and because they keep doing this shit. They keep listing her questionable and then ruling her out. I don't know what games they're playing. Maybe there's some long-term benefit. I find it very frustrating. I tend to agree with you that I do think she will be out. Olivia Nelson-Dodo, I'm a little less sure. They haven't been doing as many games with her. But the Sky have actually been pretty decent. They had a 3-game win streak broken in that chaos game on Sunday. Since Sloot arrived, they're basically a 500 team. They're 10-11 with a minus 0.7 net rating. Sydney Taylor's back. Her minutes are starting to creep up. We saw another game winner from her over the weekend. That trio of Vandersloot, Sydney Taylor, Camila Cardosa, 170 minutes together. They're plus 7.9. I'd be very heartened if I were a Chicago Sky fan. That trio, now Sloot might not last many more years, but that trio is pretty interesting. They're still the best ATS team in the WNBA. They're also weirdly the sneaky fastest pace in the W. That's really popped since Sloot has been back. I think that's probably part of their success. They've been playing really fast and really well. 21-16 to the over. Connecticut offense really struggles without Olivia Nelson-Dodo is the thing that caught my eye. And then Lacan and Griner really impact the defense more than the offense. I know you have a bet for this game. I forgot to put up the totals. I'll throw those up quickly. You want to talk through your bet and how you got to the side you're on?
Yeah, I mean, well, you said a lot of the positive things for Chicago, and that's the side that I'm on, Jim. I'll lay the points with the Sky. They've been playing really, really well over the last couple of weeks since Sloot came back, with Sydney playing the way she is back in the lineup now. She missed a game or two. I mean, they've won 3 of their last 4. They lost that one to the Fever, which you're going to lose pretty much every game when you allow 18 threes and you only make 4 like that. You're going to lose those games. So the Fever shot unbelievable in that game. I mean, honestly, I feel like it should have been a bigger blowout based on
honestly
what the Fever were, how the Fever were shooting. So I'm going to kind of toss that game to the side of like an outlier of like just a dominant shooting performance from Indiana and not really like take too much negative from that game away on Chicago's side. And then, I mean, just with the way the Sun have played all season long, kind of like you mentioned, the games that they're playing, if Griner's out, I think Cardoso is going to have a big night and some of their interior presence is going to allow Chicago to do some good stuff inside, get to the bucket. So I'm comfortable laying the 5.5 with the Sky against a really poor Sun team that probably is kind of checking out close to the break. You know, their season's over essentially. And I know Chicago's is too, but also with everything that went on in the madness of the Fever Chicago game the other night, like I almost think that kind of galvanizes the Sky team a little and like 100%. Brings them closer and makes them more motivated to come out the next time. Whereas the Sun don't really have, I mean, thankfully they don't have anything like that, but they're also just kind of like going into the break, ready for a break, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, their best player left already. Leila Lacan is already headed over to France. I don't think they have kind of rolled over in the second half of the season in a way that I think kind of makes sense. They have some tanking incentives to really make sure that they get that top overall pick. I'm with you. This is my lean. I'm just doing leans on this show today. But it was the lean I picked out that I think I liked the most of the night. Walked through some of the stuff earlier that the Sky just are like a pretty decent team. I think you could potentially get the Sun doing the same thing they did last time with a lot of bench players in the second half. I wouldn't count on it, which is why I'm kind of, doing lean over like full, mega unit slam or anything. But I do think that the Sky have like kept playing really, really well. To be honest, even after they've been eliminated, they don't have like a pick to tank for. In fact, that one's going to Washington and in what is going to make them an even better team in the future. So they're just kind of in this, like, let's play spoiler role. And again, to talk to your point, I think that fits the narrative of that team really well right now, of kind of us against the world. So I do think this Sky team is looking pretty good on Tuesday. Any final thoughts on that? I wanted to address one thing in the comments real quick.
No, go for comments.
Perfect. So Jadon asked if I'm doing anything with the Shakira Austin DPOI equity. I actually definitely am. This was one came on. I can't remember if it was a show give out or just the app, but Shakira Austin 50-1. She's down to about plus 430 now. And if you watched at the start of the season, Calvin came on and gave out Asia Wilson DPOI. So at least for myself, I have definitely been loading up on Gabby. It got it back around to about even money. I think that's a great play now, in part because I've been trying to listen to podcasts and read articles out there. I'm not really hearing that many people say Shakira Austin for DPOI. I think she should be in the conversation. I think she could be in the top 5, but I'm really not hearing a lot of win equity right now. I'm hearing a lot of Gabby. I'm hearing a lot of Asia. So if you don't have any of those two, I do think it's a good time to grab some. It seems relatively split right now. I think the market actually is priced pretty well between those first two in terms of, I think Gabby's should be slightly favored over Asia right now, but I haven't heard a ton of people shouting out Shakira for DPOI. So I think we are in a great spot if you tailed the 50-1 to leverage that a bit to get in on Gabby and Asia at decent numbers. So just wanted to address that real quick. Thanks for hopping in the comments there. Let's slide over to the second game of the night. Here we have the Portland Fire at the Dallas Wings. Wings are 7.5 point favorites. Totals 176.5. Portland fully healthy. AZ Fudd and Isaiah James are out for Dallas. Portland's been kind of sneaky in August. They've been 4-4. They haven't lost a game by more than 5 points in the whole month so far. Dallas, on the other hand, has been kind of rocky, especially post AZ Fudd injury. But they're coming off their best pair of wins. They beat the Fever, and then they dominated Seattle. That was really fun. Paige was really on one there. I think she had 16 first score points, 18 first score points. You have a play here. I do want to double check. Are you okay with the number that moved to? You had under 177.5. Are you good with
I'm still good with under 176.5. Yeah, I saw that throughout the day that had dropped.
Market moved your way, which is always good. Yeah.
Yep. Always a good sign, because that is my play in this one, is the under. The second game between these two teams just absolutely sailed over. I think there was 197 points or something in that one. But the Fire shot 57% from the field. The Wings shot 49%. So again, those are outlier shooting performances that you're not going to get on a nightly basis. The other game between these two teams, I want to say, finished in the 160s. And so I think this is almost a little bit inflated based on that second game that went way over. But also, what both of these teams do really well on offense, the other team, that's kind of a point of their defense, that they're great at taking those areas away. So the Fire, they're third in points off of turnovers. The Wings are second in defending that
awesome.
category. The Fire are second in second chance points. This is a little bit more middle of the road for the Wings, but they're seventh in that. So still not terrible, right? Yeah. The Wings are first in the league in fast break points. The Fire are top 5 in defending that. Both of these teams are top 10 in points in the paint. They're also both top 5 in defending it. So it's just kind of what these teams, their avenue for beating other opponents. It's kind of that's what these teams take away from each other as well. Yeah. So I think we're going to see a little bit lower scoring. And then I know that Portland is still quite a few games back from Dallas. But still, maybe a little bit more of a playoff atmosphere of just, they're the last two teams that haven't really, I know no one has totally clinched a spot yet, but they're kind of still in that 8-9, if you will, spot right now. So
yeah, Portland wants any chance at doing this. There's a must win. If they don't win this, I think maybe it's not literally over, but it's not going to happen.
It's not good.
I like the point about the love the breakdown on taking away what other teams are good at. And for Dallas, with AZ Fudd out, it's been a Wakuye in the lineup. That's more rebounding. So that's even more a better chance to shut down that second chance opportunities for the Fire. I lean, again, just doing a lean here, I lean towards Portland just because of how successful they've been this month. Again, they haven't lost a game by more than 5 in over a month at this point. And this is a 7.5 point spread. And it's not like the Wings are the best team in the W. In fact, without AZ, they're kind of honestly not that much better than the Sky. They're kind of a little bit over 500 team, I think, without AZ. So I do lean. I think that 7.5 is a little bit high. But again, scary times out there. I'm just making a lean right now. And
that's where if I had to pick a side in this one, I would have. I guess I lean towards the Fire with you. That would be a lean as well.
I don't even mind doing a Dallas to win by 1-7 type thing, because I do think this is the game that Dallas pulls out. We just saw Portland in this Washington game is a very similar script. They had a really big lead early. They had a big lead going into the fourth, and then the playoff team pulled it out down the stretch. And I don't think Portland minds if the playoff team pulls it down the stretch.
Yeah.
But I think that they're a good enough team to really hang in these games, and 7.5 points is actually a pretty big number. So let's slide over the last game of the day. We have the Washington Mystics minus 2.5 at the Phoenix Mercury. Totals 167.5. That's gone up a couple points since open. Washington fully healthy. We talked about that kind of in the opening section. Phoenix, the big news here, Kelsey Plum is back. So that's partly why that total bumped up and why I think it moved about a point towards Phoenix. Marta Suarez is up. Phoenix doesn't really matter. Sammy Whitcomb probable doesn't really matter. Phoenix has been scuffling. Their only win their last 6 games was against the Sparks. They just released DeWanda Bonner to let her kind of go, see if she can join a team and get a ring. The vibes are not great right now. Whereas Washington, the only teams they have lost to in the past month are Minnesota and Las Vegas. So they really are taking care of business. They've been moving up the standings, been very impressive. I know saw the video from Fiddle out there the other day about, there's no such thing as a rat line. And he's right. I actually agree with that. It usually is if you make the number, it's like, oh, that is about what the number should be. This looks like a rat line because it seems like the Washington Mystics should be more than 2.5 point favorites in Phoenix, even though it's a road game. And if you looked at the beginning of the season, you'd say Phoenix is a better team. Again, I lean towards Mystics money line because then it's like the playoff team who needs the win. But again, this is just a lean. I don't think you have a best bet on this game, but do you have some thoughts in general on the game?
I don't have a best bet on this one. I would also go with Washington. I think that there's a big mismatch on the glass here in this game too. And I think that just could be the difference maker here. Washington's averaging almost 40 rebounds a game and Phoenix is averaging almost just over 30. So
crazy. That
creates a ton of extra possessions for the Mystics. And if they're able to just play solid basketball, capitalize on a couple of those, they should, and keyword is should, be able to win by 3. But it is kind of a funky one, which has me staying away from it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's just a little scary.
It definitely is. It's a great shot on the rebounds. Again, don't have a player props night. I'll head nod towards maybe a Kiki Iriafen rebounds, especially because DeWanda Bonner was actually one of the Mercury's better rebounders. She was getting 6 or 7 a game. So I think they're going to be very thin on the glass. Natasha Mack, theoretically, as their center, is going to be the only one really pulling down boards. Maybe that neutralizes Shakira to a degree. And then it's Kiki who comes in and really does damage on the offensive glass. Any final thoughts here before we wrap up a fun episode?
No, I'm excited for the international play. It'll be fun to kind of watch and see how these players want to do it international, then what things look like coming back. Cause it's going to be fast and furious once they're back from the number of games they have until the playoffs. And then just also, Jim, how close the standings are right now.
Crazy.
Everyone's just sandwiched in basically 2 through 6, 7,
we have
8. It is all pretty. They're 4.5 games separate.
That's viable. There's not a lot of season left, but that could flip. You end the season on a 5-game losing streak. You could go from 2nd to 7th or something.
Yep.
It's pretty crazy. So very much agreed that this break should be pretty fun. And then when we come back, I was looking at planning out episodes. I was like, I think we have 3 episodes before it's just into the playoffs. It's pretty crazy. So should be a fun stretch of basketball here. Kate, thanks so much for hopping on again. We'll have to get you on in the playoffs at some point, do some breaking down. If you would like to tail any of the bets we talked about today, look for the quick slip link in the episode description. If you're watching YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're listening to it as a podcast, rate and review is always excellent. If you can download the Action Network app, be posting plays on there. When we come back from the international break, I'm taking the extended break myself to snap out of this losing streak. My thanks to David Payne on audio, Gifford Gould on the YouTube side of things. Thanks again, Kate. And for Kate and myself, let's get buckets.